everyone and welcome back. We've had a lot of videos on this channel about albums and compilations, collections and box sets. We've even had one about EPs, but there is one format which we didn't really look at in detail so far: singles. Now, I never liked singles as a format, or never was really linked to them, because when I grew up in the 90s, there weren't that many singles coming out. The main format back then was cassette. CD was, at least in my area, CD was also an important format, but not as widespread and as popular as the cassette was. And there weren't that many singles released on cassette. Usually they would release something like a maxi single, where you would have the same track multiple times on the cassette, but remixed a few times aside from the main single track. Or you would have something like a maxi single that was more like an EP, where you had the main single but you had a lot or a few other songs there on the cassette as well, from 4 to 6 tracks on a cassette, which was of course less than what a full album cassette would have been. After the 90s, when the internet era began, you still had singles being released on radio and TV with videos, but slowly you started to see them being released online. You still had some singles released on CD, but again, I don't feel like they were super popular. People would usually wait until that song, which they wanted from the single, was released in a compilation or released on an album, and I don't think singles were popular anymore as a physical format to the wide audience. Now, in the past few years, with physical formats making a resurgence, you do see or start to see more singles being released on physical formats as well, but it's still not comparable to what it was in its heyday in the 50s, 60s, and even 70s, when this was one of the main ways, especially for young people, to collect music, because it was easier to get and obviously cheaper than an album, and it usually contained some of the most successful songs of whatever artist or band the public was interested in. But even if I avoid collecting singles as a format, I do have some that were important for me for a reason or another. But most importantly, I do understand their significance musically and historically, and of course emotionally, to generations of people, especially from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Because, again, for a lot of young people, it was the main way in which they could listen to their favorite songs. So, the significance of singles in music history is undeniable. They did contribute heavily to change the course of music during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And potentially we wouldn't be where we are today without this format existing and allowing the wide distribution of new music to fans, to listeners all over the world in that period. I mean, I have here a couple of items that I've got recently. I've got them through a batch of singles that I wanted to buy for the Beatles, but then these ones just came as a bonus. Not sure if I'm going to keep many of them, but these two are interesting to me because they are the oldest items that I now have in my collection. They are from 1959. You have this Decca single of Mike Preston with Just Ask Your Heart and Mr. Blue. Still looks kind of decent. It has on the label some writing of the former owner with the removable midsection of the single still intact. And you know, to me it's incredible thinking about this one and about this EP of Jim Reeves. This one still has its sleeve, which is really nice. A mono release of Jim Reeves' Songs to Warm the Heart, with you see still with the flip bags that were somewhat popular then, glossy front. You know, there's 5 songs on here. I'm going to go through them briefly, and you have some liner notes as well. This one is an RCA Victor label extended play EP, 45 RPM. Really beautiful, you know, beautifully presented little record this is. Now, these two singles were released in 1959. That's 1 year after my mother was born, or almost 1 year depending on the month that they were released in. And you have to think about the emotional investment that these could carry, these small pieces of plastic could carry. You know, a young person, kid, a teenager, going to the store and buying one of these or a couple of these, as much as they could afford, getting back home and listening to them and repeatedly listening to them because, you know, they didn't have like a whole lot of big records with a lot of tracks on them. They had a bunch of singles that they could listen to on repeat. And how much this could have meant to them back then. For us, it's so easy today, and especially for kids today, for young people today, you have all of the music of the world at your fingertips, more or less, for, you know, a very small amount of money comparing to what kids in the 50s and 60s had to go through to just listen to a couple of tracks. So yeah, this to me is amazing, at least this historical part, and these being 65 years old, that is amazing to think about. And think about the person who first went to the store, a kid in the 60s or the 50s, went to the store and got this little small piece of plastic, and then they got you know, so much enjoyment out of them. Now with this Jim Reeves one, I like it. Again, it's an EP, it's not a single, but I like it because it does have this original sleeve kept in pretty good condition. It also is very funny. It has, so I'll just read the track listing very fast and then we'll move on to the subject of the day. On side 1 it has 3 tracks actually: Just Call Me Lonesome, Till the End of the World, How's the World Treating You. None of these are written by Reeves. And on the second side they have Am I Losing You is the second song on the second side, which is apparently written by Reeves. But then it has a song which surprised me, the title, that they put that on a record back in the 50s, which is Satan Can Hold Me. Now, of course, that's not a religious song. It's more of a love song with religious notes, kind of like Hallelujah. But yeah, I mean, it at least was funny to me seeing this title on a record from 1959. But those are not the ones that I wanted to talk about today. Fairly obviously, we're going to talk about Beatles singles. And these are not even the ones that are the main focus of the video. That will come in a few minutes. But these were reissues of the original Beatles UK singles from the 1970s, 76, 77. In 77, the EMI subsidiary World Records also released a box set of these. And there were subsequent box sets of Beatles singles in the next years as well. I've got these as a sort of a bulk purchase. There are a couple of more that I'm missing to fill the set, and I will do that. They sound decent enough. Now, another thing that I don't really like about singles is that often they don't sound as good as that version of the song on the album, and it's not necessarily due to the mix. Sometimes it's the mix. You can have different mixes on singles versus albums. Sometimes mixes on singles might be even better than the mixes on the albums, but overall, the sound quality I found for singles, maybe they were just played a lot, maybe the quality of the vinyl that was used was not that good, I don't know, maybe they just weren't kept in the right way. But I find overall that sound on singles is not as good as sound on albums. And this is somewhat true to even more recent singles that were released like in the past 10 years. Some of them included in certain box sets, like the sort of EP actually of Paperback Writer and Rain included, and Revolver box set was pretty good. The Now and Then one that appeared with Love Me Do was pretty good, but some others are not on par with the sound of the same songs present on the album, even when it's the same mix. Maybe another reason is that some of these are cut really loud, so they are louder than the album, so there might be some extra distortion. And I guess this again is explainable by the fact that, you know, mostly who bought these were young people who wanted their music to be louder. So yeah, there might be different reasons. I'm not a specialist in vinyl or vinyl history. These are the ones that I'm somewhat aware of. There might be other reasons as well, but yeah, it seems to me that sound on singles is not as hi-fi, if you will, as it is on albums or even EPs to some extent. But now, before we move on with the actual subject of the day, just to have a couple of more words on these. As you see, all of them are in these sleeves with the green fronts, with the 45 sort of label in the middle, and then on the back they are basically picture sleeves. They were grouped, so you have a bunch of singles that have one picture, usually from the early era of the Beatles, and you'll see some of them now. Like for instance, these ones, all of them have the same picture. And you have, love me do with P.S. I love you, please please me with ask me why, I want to hold your hand with this boy, she loves you with I'll get you, come, can't buy me love, you can't do that, and a hard day's night and things we said today. All of them have the same picture. A bunch of others will have this picture. You see there's also Yellow Submarine and Eleanor Rigby, and they, even from I Feel Fine, She's a Woman, Help, I'm Down, and so on, they all have this same pic. Then another set that have the pictures around the area of a Magical Mystery Tour, right? You have the rock and roll music single, so Back in the USSR with Twist and Shout, with this picture from the White Album. Then you have a bunch more singles, so like the last batch of them will have this picture from the later era of the Beatles. And there's the one with the Yesterday one, has also a different picture than the others. I don't have it yet here, but I know for sure that the picture on Yesterday, on the Yesterday single, is another version than all of the others. But the main item that I wanted us to talk about today is the Beatles Singles Collection from 2019, the blue box set, which I managed to find new and still to some extent mint, sealed condition. So before we go on and look at the individual singles, let's unbox it. The singles and the booklet, I think, and interestingly enough, I think the Now and Then single might fit in here as well. Just take a look at the box a little bit. We're gonna maybe look at it also when we look at the singles, but yeah, the sort of back sleeve or like back inner, which is attached right now by the fact that it still has the wrap on. You can see featuring the 22 singles issued in the UK between 62 and 70, the double A side Free as a Bird and Real Love, mastered at Abbey Road Studios from the mono and stereo tapes from the original single mixes, although I remember seeing in a video a few years ago by Parallelogram where Angie mentioned that I think one or two of the mixes were not actually the ones that are supposed to be. Anyway, this is the box. Let's just briefly try to take a look at what we have here, but let's look at the spines. They look super nice. Now, as mentioned, this is sort of a unique release, and I think it is a good addition to a collection because of this packaging of the UK singles into these international sleeves, right? So basically, as we saw in the unboxing, and you can see it here on the back, we have all of them listed here. They do mention on the box as well on this leaflet that they were mastered at Abbey Road using the original mixes and the original tapes, stereo mono tapes of the original mixes. Again, that is not completely true for all of them, unfortunately, but still, you know, it's an important piece of history just because you get to see all of these sleeves and the way that the Beatles were presented to the world through this box set, which is, you know, helpful if you don't want to buy like dozens of singles from different countries that, you know, are maybe very used, or you can hardly find some of them, maybe some copies on Discogs or elsewhere. Now, before we start with the singles, let's take another quick look at the booklet. It's a good booklet. It has some comprehensive information in it. It's not as encompassing as some of the other books that appeared on some of the other box sets, but still, it's good enough. It has the listing of the singles here at the end, on the last 4 pages. But then you also have a lot of pictures of the original singles and some, you know, details about their release. I think it's okay. It's nice enough to see some of the variations of the original labels and see from year to year what were the main releases for the Beatles singles. Now, let's start with the first one, Love Me Do with P.S. I Love You, with the US version of the sleeve. This was released by Tolly Records, 1962. I replaced the original inner sleeves, which are very good. They are good paper inner sleeves with poly inners, but I replaced them with these Japanese style ones. I feel like they are a bit better, or at least I like them more. And here we are, the yellow label of the Tolly Records US release of Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You. Second one from 1963, we have Please Please Me with Ask Me Why. This is a Italy version of the sleeve for this single. As you can see, you have this sort of red background picture of the Beatles. On the back, you have a list of other records that appeared in that period for the Beatles singles, which are Twist and Shout, Misery, P.S. I Love You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You and I'll Get You, and this one, Please Please Me with Ask Me Why, but also a listing of a couple of the albums on 33 RPM. You can see them here. And let's take a look at the label as well. A beautiful silver on blue Parlophone made in Italy label. Rather like this one. Next one is from Norway, From Me to You with Thank You Girl. You see here we have the 4 heads of the Beatles, again in some red circles on the white background. A pretty decent cover. I think it's less flashy than all of the others. On the back, it also has some other singles released at that time by Parlophone, I guess in Norway. Pretty nice variation, and on these songs I see you have like Nat King Cole and The Shadows and Cliff Richard and others. Now, the label is a silver on black Parlophone label from that era. It sort of mirrors a little bit like the font and some of the style of the UK label, the red one, but of course with different coloring, but still quite a nice variation. We are staying in 1963 with this Greek version of She Loves You with I'll Get You. Very nice picture on the front of this. Okay. You have here also the Beatles are on Parlophone Records. You have it spelled in Greek as well here on the top, as you can see. And I see that also for each Beatle they wrote the names as well on this sleeve, so you can see and know which each of them is. Okay, and now the label, very pretty silver on pink Parlophone label for She Loves You and I'll Get You. And you see these still have some like pieces of plastic sticking out. Yeah, this is again a variation of that original red label of Parlophone that was used for Love Me Do. But I see, it's replicated in other countries as well, but with different colors, which is a nice touch. Last one from 1963, I think, is this Chilean version of I Want to Hold Your Hand with This Boy. So from Chile, they used, as you can see, just the cover picture from With the Beatles on both sides, with Los Beatles, basically in Spanish. And let's see the label. Oh, it's quite a pretty silver on green Odeon label for Chile, with the songs as well written, song titles written in Spanish. Quiero tomar tu mano, ese muchacho. We're moving on to 1964, and we have Can't Buy Me Love and You Can't Do That with an Austrian label. It's a very interesting touch. Of course, the same, again, we will see this with some of them. It's the same picture back and front. I kind of like the ones which have a picture on the front and something else on the back. It brings me more into that era and it helps me see what other things were released at the time and so on. But still, this is a nice one with this sort of, haircut and this reddish color. Kind of seems like it was a symbol of the Beatles at the time, right? Or one of the symbols that they had, I guess. Let's see the record as well. A nice green label again with Parlophone, made in Austria. Next, also from 1964, we have A Hard Day's Night with Things We Said Today. This one is from Holland, from the Netherlands. Again, same back and front with a picture from a still from the Hard Day's Night movie. Really like kind of the font that they used on this one, really playful. Again with Parlophone, and again we have that original sort of Parlophone label, as you can see here. But this time again silver on black. We're staying in 1964 for this Swedish sleeve version of I Feel Fine with She's a Woman. As you can see, they also have the Parlophone and EMI logos on this one. And on the back, you see you have this like top 10 mentioned, and they are showing you 10 other tracks, I guess part of singles that potentially were top 10 for them at the time, I'm not sure. But they also start with the Beatles. I should have known better than A Hard Day's Night are there at the top. Okay, let's see the label. This one is, I guess, a more conservative, sort of white or silver on black Parlophone label. It's more like the labels that will appear later in UK and Holland and other countries later in the 70s, I think 80s rather. Now we're moving to 1965 with Ticket to Ride, Yes It Is, on this Spanish version of the sleeve. As you can see, they used again the same pictures that were used on the Greek version, I think, of She Loves You. On the back, you have a bunch of other 45s of the Beatles, and you can see, like, this was 1965. They had been out like across Europe for a couple of years, maybe close to 3 years, depending on how they started to be released in each country. And you already have on the back, what are like these, like 12 other singles of the Beatles. So you see, this was, quite a successful format, and people really, really enjoyed it. Now, see the label. again, we've seen it before, the silver on green Odeon label. Looking nice, I think. Staying in 1965 for Help, with I'm Down, of course. And you can see here, hopefully you can see, I'll put some pictures as well, if not, you see that it's mentioned that it's from the film of the same name. This is a Belgium sleeve, same back and front, with a picture from the movie, still from the movie, I think. And we have the silver on black Parlophone label. Again, that same standard. Now we've seen it a few times before. We're moving on to France, still in 1965 for We Can Work It Out in Day Tripper. This one notoriously already is using this very pixelated version of the picture from the original sleeve. But yeah, there it is, We Can Work It Out, Day Tripper, Les Beatles. On the back, a presentation of other 45s from France. And let's see the label. This one I like this, I don't know, dark yellowish. I want to say it's orange. Odeon label. Next, we're moving to 1966, and we have Paperback Writer and Rain on this sleeve from Turkey, using the picture that was used for Yesterday and Today, the album from the US. Both sides with the Odeon label here. And this is the first time that we will see this again, where we see a sort of mock-up, it's like a copy of the Capitol label, you know, the spiral or swirl, yellow and red swirl of the Capitol label on Odeon for Paperback Writer and Rain. Still in 1966 for Yellow Submarine and Eleanor Rigby from Argentina this time, Los Beatles again. Interestingly enough, using a version of the picture from Beatles for Sale, which was an album from 2 years back at this stage, 1966, we are with this one. I really like the label of this one because it's also using like the yellow and black Parlophone label, but applied to singles with the Odeon Pops label, as you can see here. And actually, Yellow Submarine in this case is the A side. We're moving on to 1967 with Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. This is the Australian label, but of course very similar to the UK label. With this picture, very specific to this release. And on the back side you have the 2 tracks, and you have 4 pictures of the Beatles as babies, you know, in different orientation of the picture, right? And I guess this is where we go pretty standard with the 45 RPM Parlophone label of the time, the silver on black, double A side, Penny Lane, and Strawberry Fields Forever. Still in 1967 for All You Need Is Love with Baby You're a Rich Man from Germany. Very nice picture of the time. And then we also have these medallions, metal medallions. Not sure what metal they are from. I don't speak German that much, but they have these medallions of each Beatle, as you can see, for sale. And let's see the label as well. This is a white on green Odeon label. We see this sort of variation of coloring also on albums at the time, with the Gemma label as well somewhere behind below the second line. Last one from 1967, I Am the Walrus with Hello Goodbye from Mexico. Same picture back and front, this time with the Capitol label. So Mexico had their own Capitol Discos, and you can see again we have the yellow and orange or yellow and red swirl label from Capitol. But of course, everything is in Spanish. Yo soy la morsa. Moving on to 1968, and we have this very flashy cover of Lady Madonna and the Inner Light from Japan. Finally, we're with Japan. So this is a gatefold. I think it's the only one. You have the lyrics here, and you have a lot of other information, but mostly in Japanese. As you can see, like the liner notes of this single, but a very nice presentation from Japan again, right? And it's very like 70s, 80s like cover, if you ask me. Very colorful. And the back, just blank Odeon Records. Let's see the label. Pretty simple. So the flashy cover comes into contrast with a very, very simple and, let's say, conservative label of Odeon Records with this white or silver and black. Still a nice release. Now we're going green with this South African version of Hey Jude combined with Revolution. Same picture on both sides, as you can see. Pretty nice one. And we have somewhat classical now, 45 RPM, Parlophone silver and black label. Moving on, we now have 1969 with Get Back and Don't Let Me Down. As you can see, same picture on both sides from Denmark. And we're now reaching the point where we're going to be seeing this more and more. The Apple label, green apple with a half apple for Don't Let Me Down on the other side. Denmark release of Get Back and Don't Let Me Down. Then we have Portugal with the Ballad of John and Yoko and Old Brown Shoe. Still from 1969, yeah. I like this picture because it also includes Yoko, which is appropriate given that the Ballad of John and Yoko is one of the is like the A side of the single. We do have a presentation of 3 other singles here that appeared probably in Portugal at the time. So we have Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, the one that we just saw, and the other 2 that we just saw, Hey Jude, Revolution, Lady Madonna, and The Inner Lights. This picture, of course, from the last session that they took that was also present on the Hey Jude album in the US. And we have a nice intermezzo and sort of different label intertwined with the apples that we're going to be seeing from now on, which is this yellow and black Parlophone label. Pretty special given that it's 1969, so the apple was everywhere at that time. Next to last from the 60s, or actually the last one from the 60s because it's the last one from 1969, we have this Israel version of the cover for Something with Come Together, and you can see they were using this picture from the Abbey Road photo sessions with the Beatles now working the other way, as you know them from the original cover of the Abbey Road album, and kind of spread around in the half of the front and the back of this single, with the Apple label just spotted on there. Okay, and we will have the green apple label here for Something, and the half apple for Come Together. We're on to 1970 and the last single from the original batch of singles between 62 and 70. Let It Be, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number, with the UK variation of the sleeve, basically reproducing to a certain extent the Let It Be album sleeve. And of course a disc will have the green apple for Let It Be and the half apple for You Know My Name. Now, if you consider the original Beatles catalog of singles until 1970, so ending with Let It Be to be the canon, then a couple of more singles were added to that canon in the 90s, which were Free as a Bird and Real Love. But for this collection, they've been bundled up together. They were bundled up with different songs from the anthology albums back then. But here they were bundled up together as I think a double A side. And you have Free as a Bird, Real Love, front and back, which were actually the front of the sleeves for those singles at the time. Both of them are released in the 90s, Free as a Bird in 1995 and Real Love in 1996. And you have them on, again, the Green Apple label, so Free as a Bird, Dark Green Apple, Real Love, Half Apple. Considering they were both A-sides, maybe they would have considered putting the Green Apple on both sides. But we are not closing with this. I just wanted to say that I added to this collection the latest single that they released in 2023, which is Now and Then combined with Love Me Do. You've seen this before, you know it. I think it just warrants to be there because it is a new original single from the Beatles. So we have Now and Then, the Green Apple on one side, and exactly what I mentioned before, the original Love Me Do Parlophone label with the silver on red, which was reproduced on so many of those other records on the B-side. So there you go, the Beatles Singles Collection from 2019, all UK original singles in international sleeves. Plus, I've added the Now and Then Love Me Do combination just to have a complete set, and it fit pretty well in the box. In terms of sound, they sound decent. I don't think, again, a lot of the variations of these songs, even if they are the same mix that appeared on albums, they sound better on albums or compilations to me. But, you know, this collection is not as much for listening over and over again, is more for kind of getting yourself in the mood of the 60s and understanding a little bit of how people felt when they held these singles in their hands in that period. Otherwise, for me, listening to singles is a hassle. I mean, listening to vinyl sometimes is a hassle, right? That's why I kind of preferred CDs, because I could put one CD or even 5 in my changer and listen to them back to back without having to go up and keep changing the record. With an album, I can still do it. There's like 6, 7 tracks on there. Even the albums that I've got that we will see on this channel, which are 45 RPM but full albums on 2 45 RPM discs of 12-inch discs. You have to change it after 2 or 3 tracks at the most. Still, it's a little bit inconvenient, but the quality of sound kind of makes up for that. For singles, there's no such thing, like having to change the single after each track. You get tired really quickly. But, I understand what kind of experience it was back then. I understand what they meant to people, and they mean a lot to us as well, these newer generations, because we know that everything started from that in one way or another. Well, this was about it for today. Thank you again very much for joining us. If you want me to talk about singles or showcase singles in the future, again, please do let me know. Otherwise, we'll be back to albums and compilations as of the next video. I want to give some extra recognition to the people who are watching these videos and sharing them and liking them, and especially to the people who are also subscribing to the channel and commenting. I enjoy very much the conversation with you guys. Thank you again very much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time.